بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء. طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم سيدي، فيا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي، فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. أبا الفاضل باسمك جل الإخاء، وهلهل قيثاره المبدع، فموقفك الفذ يوم الطفوف له كل ذي مغرمة تفجع. وهز لواك أنين الصبا، وهز لواك أنين الصبا، يصعده عطش موجع، فخضت الفرات وجيش الطغاة، فخذت الفرات وجيش الطغاة، وراحت تلوذ وراء النخيل سيوف بها ترجف الأذرع، يا لتقطع منك اليمين التي وتبتز منك الشمال التي لها السيف من كفها. ويخسف بدر بني هاشم، ويخسف بدر بني هاشم، وحسين به يفجع، وحسين به يفجع. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون، والعاقبة للمتقين. عطروا أفواهكم بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، سيدنا وسندنا وشفيعنا مولانا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين اصطفاهم الله أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين، في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I start at the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, the Omniscient, the Omnipotent, All grace is due to Allah Azza wa Jal for His infinite mercy and His infinite characteristics, which He has instilled within us. And our existence is merely a representation and a reflection of Allah's great existence. For you and I are finite beings, while our Creator is an infinite being. Allah Azza wa Jal is infinite from all aspects. You and I can come close to understanding the concept of what a God is, but we can never totally comprehend Him, because the concept of infinity to you and I is uncomprehendable. We can come to understand it mathematically, but to come to fully expose and to fully grasp the essence of Allah Azza wa Jal is impossible on the level of mankind. You and I have a limited capacity to understanding Allah, and hence within the Quran Allah states, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Whatever you and I come to know of God, you and I will know so little compared to how much Allah Azza wa Jal has to offer and has to give. Does that mean we should use that as an argument to stop understanding what Allah is? Because certain sects, when you come to question them about the way that they think of God, the most recent answer is, God cannot be comprehensible, hence I shouldn't discuss Him. Or God cannot be understood, hence there's a red line where you and I cannot cross. Or don't discuss with me the infinity of God and why there's such a difference between my God and your God, because there's really no understanding. We can't come to cope with Him. And the same individual, you come to ask him, do you believe that God is infinite? He'll say to you, yes, He is. But when you come to question him further about the existence of God, the answers which you get is, stop right there, because we cannot comprehend Him. And it's quite ironic that we comprehend Him in certain arguments where we are able to separate Him into three entities, and within certain arguments we can't comprehend Him. It's as if it's a backfire to you and I, that because I can't answer certain questions, or because I'm unsure of certain questions, or because there are certain concepts which I haven't yet to understand, I start to brush off the idea of understanding God. But here the question comes forward, and this is typically asked by many youth. And in my teenage years, I asked this question desperately and tried to get answers. And it's interesting that when you and I at times come to ask certain questions, the reply that we get is, don't explain it to a youngster because he probably won't understand. Don't discuss predestination and God's existence because he probably won't understand. Philosophy and these things are too hard for certain people, they won't understand them. On the contrary, only when in my teenage years, I started to expose myself to certain knowledges, I truly grasped what it means to be a Muslim. Before, I was attending the majlis. I was going to the majlis of Aba Abdullah. I was reciting the Quran aspects here and there. I never truly comprehended Allah until I started being able to prove to myself first the existence of God. That's when your life starts to truly jump around and you understand what religion really is. When you're able to prove to yourself rather than others that this is exactly what my God is. Hence Allah within the Quran states, prove to yourself, explain to yourself. Allah continuously says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ. There are certain questions that you and I can't emulate anyone on. I can't emulate anyone on the idea of Tawheed. I can't emulate anyone on the idea of Imamah. I can't emulate anyone on these concepts. What I can do is I can use others to help me get towards conclusions, but my following of others cannot be on the level of Usul al-Din. Hence Surah Al-Hamd, which you and I recite all the time, is approximately and exactly Usul al-Din manifested in one surah. And as if Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying to us, your whole life outline is within Surah Al-Hamd. When I recite Surah Al-Hamd and I state, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. When I'm thanking Allah, my thanks should be towards what He has given me, which is the most appreciative I am for. What is the most significant thing in my life? What is something which I will never give up? My own existence. The very fact that I exist is what I appreciate God for the most. Oh Allah, you've given me life. If someone was to give me millions of dollars, if someone gave me the whole world, in order for me to give up my existence, I would always, as a human being typically would say, benefit for me to live rather than die. And we take our existence and the existence of others very strongly. Hence, when someone dies, especially a youth, when they die, that's when you and I start to wake up. We start to understand what it means to lose an individual. Allah continues within Surah Al-Hamd. He says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Allah is saying, I've given you birth, I've given you existence, and one day I'm reminding you that you will come back towards me. Do you see the outline? Do you see Tawheed involved? Do you see how Allah is saying, this is your first point of existence, here is the last point of existence where you will now switch and come towards me. Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. Allah is drawing a purpose of existence. He's saying you worship me and you use me as an aid towards your life. Does worship simply mean that I sit on the prayer mat 24/7 and simply pray towards Allah? A smile is worship. A small gesture of kindness is worship. A small act of kindness to a mother, a father is worship. Within the religion of Islam, all these acts are worship. Allah continues, He says, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. That's Imamat. My Usul al-Din are all manifested within Surah Al-Hamd. Ever realize why do we recite it so much? Why is it that I recite Surah Al-Hamd within my life for sure 10 to 15 times a day? And furthermore, that anything, even within our gatherings, when someone dies, we're constantly reciting Surah Al-Hamd. Ever ask ourselves, why Surah Al-Hamd? Why not Surah Al-Baqarah? Why Surah Al-Hamd? Why not Surah Yusuf? Why not any other surah? Allah is saying, the journey of your life as an individual, I will open the Quran with a small minimization of your entire life. When I see Surah Al-Hamd, and I start reading it, I say, oh Allah, my whole life is manifested within the surah. You're speaking about the time I was born and the time I'm going to die. You're speaking about my purpose of existence, which is me living to worship you. You're also highlighting for me that there are role models I need to take within the Quran and within my life. And you're telling me what is the purpose of my life? الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. One surah within the Quran, the beginning surah, which changes the perspectives of the way we look at the surah. I tell you, it's all perspectives. Our lives are all perspectives. Today you've got, for example, in Sierra Leone, thousands and thousands of children who dig up in mines to look for diamonds. They take the diamonds and they sell a diamond which might be a $5 million diamond, $10 million diamond to a merchant who is enslaving these children for maybe 2 cents, 3 cents. $10 million diamond, $5 million diamond. Why has the child sold it for cheap? Because he doesn't know the value of the diamond. But the merchant who's enslaving him knows that this child is bringing me gold. He knows that this child is bringing me exactly what I need. And hence the perspective of the slave master makes him superior to his slave in the idea that he knows the value of what he needs. He knows the value of what the child has given him. You and I, a lot of the time, and I speak to myself first, of course, on the foremost level, we sell our religion for cheap. We sell ourselves for cheap. We sell them for 2 pence, 3 pence, 2 cents, 3 cents, rather than understanding the true value of our religion. Hence, within the Quran, when we ask a question, and we come to a theological understanding as to who created God, because this question is highly asked. Who created God? And as a youth, I tell you, I struggled. And in my mind, I had a thought process. If God was created, then what does that make God's creator? Can we understand and can we truly comprehend God not being created? Is there anything in our lives which we can comprehend which is not created, which has always been there? That's a deep thought. Is that how the system of God works? And every time I picked at this question, every time I pinpointed at it and tried to truly understand it, I got so fed up with the logical chains in my mind, I decided to brush it to the side. I tell you, anytime as a teenager I didn't clearly understand something, and this was the main problem within my youth years when I was much younger in my teenage years, I always told myself, don't brush everything to the side. Whenever I didn't understand anything, I'd brush it to the side and say, you know what? Doesn't matter anyway. As long as I know that there's an Imam Hussein, as long as I know that there's a God out there somewhere, it's okay. And I just brushed it to the side. I locked it inside my small box and within my mind, and I secluded it to a corner, never really bringing it back. Any concept which I didn't understand, I shoved it to the side. When I really got challenged and somebody comes to me and put me on the spot and says, do you understand this? And what do you think of this? That's when it sparked. And that box started creaking and opening itself up within my mind, telling me, Ali, you can't ignore this for the rest of your life. How much longer are you going to ignore this for? How much longer are you going to see people debating about whether God exists or He doesn't exist, and you're going to keep debating it within your mind? How much longer are you going to shove it into the corner of your existence? When are you going to open the box and truly understand it? That's when it struck me. I said, man, I have to start getting answers. Somebody's got to give me answers to these questions I have. And when I couldn't find answers, I was so confused. I had a 3D image of my life. When I went to high school, I had an HD image. When I was at home, I had an HD image. And the problem within my life is the two conflicted. Because my parents, and many of us, this is the problem which we face in our lives, within our household, my mother and my father have given me such a pure understanding of the religion of Islam and what a good person is. The image is crystal clear until you hit 15 when you go to high school. Maybe I think you guys call it secondary school. Until the age of 15, it's crystal clear. The minute I walk into high school and I have my books, I've got my backpack, I'm ready to study, it's as if somebody's asked me to go to a bar and start doing my homework. I see everything from drugs, indecent sexuality, anything which is prevalent in society, which is negative, you see in public high schools. And it's sad because we expect our children to learn there. We expect our dear brothers and our dear sisters to study there. Now I've got an HD crystallized image in my mind of what exactly the normal life is. And all of us, our struggles in life is we're so confused because these two images are constantly at conflict. How do I resolve this? My mother at home is telling me that praying is great. But my friends are telling me, what's the salah you pray? What's it got to do with your life anyway? Goodness gracious, does God even exist? Where is He? You're fooling yourself. You're joking with yourself. And the constant battle every day, continuously. You try to take your CDs and throw them away. But in the back of your mind, you know that at school, everybody's listening to music. What are you going to do? And the conflict keeps happening within your mind. I tell you, if all conflicts were external, life would be so much easier. Hence, the Messenger of Allah states that the biggest jihad is the internal jihad. Because for external jihad, your enemy is one. He's in front of you. You can see him. You can fight him. But internal jihad, you're attacked from every single aspect. From the left, from the right, from behind you, from in front of you. You never know where the battle is taking place. That's the biggest challenge, is putting these together. And when questions, for example, like who created God came up, I used to just brush them to the side. Just brush them to the side. Keep them to the side. When you truly understand answers to such questions, your life becomes relevant. You start to understand exactly what's going on. Because I couldn't live like a sheep forever. I can't live brushing these things off forever. At one point, answers have to come through. Hence, when questions like this come up, there's logical answers to answering them. Here's one of them. Understanding the question of who created God begs the very question of the infinity of a God. Because can I really fathom God being created by a God? Is it possible to say that God was created by another God, and that God was created by another God, and that God was created by another God in a never-ending cycle of creation? To you and I, that doesn't make any sense, because if God was created by another God, the cycle is continuous, it never ends. Meaning all the way to the end of time, I'd still be counting God created this God, and created that God. And the example that we give is of military sergeants standing in one line. If each and every sergeant looks at the one next to him and says, I won't start until you start. And the one next to him says, I won't start until you start. And the third one says the same thing. In a continuous cycle, no one would ever start anything. No one would ever move. Hence, for you and I to exist, to be created, this would never happen because the gods would be so busy creating one another, you and I would never get the chance to exist. The very fact that you and I exist is logical proof that at one point there was a God which was always there and who was never created. Hence, within the religion of Islam, we say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. What does ahad mean? Ahad means the one who's always been there. Allah Azza wa Jalla has always been there, the Almighty, the Strong. Hence, within our religion, we don't separate God into three pieces. And I always ask the question, if God was separated within three pieces, how can He still be infinite? We know very well mathematically that infinity cannot be divided by three. I can never take infinity and divide it by 3. Hence I ask the world, anybody who brings a God and divides him into 3 pieces has actually made God not infinite, but now he's finite. Because instead of God being infinite, he's become finite by dividing him into 3. Anyone who takes God and puts him, for example, in different shapes and different forms has actually limited the existence of God. I tell you, when it comes to the religion of Islam, what drives me daily, what helps me wake up every day in the morning is knowing that my tawheed is intact. Nobody can touch it. Nobody can put a blemish on it. That's the beauty of the religion of Islam. Extremely monotheistic to such a level that nobody can even put a blemish on the religion of Islam. Hence, when you examine different religions and you ask, if God is infinite, how can you separate him into a Father, a Son, and a Holy Ghost? Because what you've done is you've taken the infinite God and divided him into 3. A man once comes to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. He says to him, "Oh, son of Ibn Rasulullah, I don't believe God exists." Imam says to him, "Tell me, what's your occupation?" He says to the Imam, "My occupation is a sailor. I sail boats." Imam says to him, "As a sailor, have you ever shipwrecked?" He says to the Imam, "Definitely, I've shipwrecked before." Imam says to him, "When you shipwrecked, did you hold on to a plank?" He says to the Imam, "I did." Imam says to him, "Did you have hope to survive?" He says, "I did." He says, that hope to survive is actually the God which you've been looking for. Because sometimes we ask, how can I explain the existence of a God to a young child? I'll give you an example. At the Wise Learning Facility in Dearborn, young boy comes up to me. He says to me, "Brother, tell me, I can't see God. I need to understand him." I asked him, "Do you love your father? Do you love your baba? Do you love your mama?" He says, "Yes, I love them." I asked him, "Tell me, is this love circle, square, trapezoid, diagonal? What kind of love is it? Explain it to me. Show it to me." He looks at me. He says, I can't explain it to you, but I love them so much. I love them a lot. And he opens up his arms. He says, "I love them so much." I said to him, "You love your parents so much, but you can never explain that love or show it to me, but it drives you to higher heights." I asked him, "Allah is the same way. You don't see Allah Azza wa Jal. You feel him with your heart." Hence the Imam Ali alayhi salam was once asked, "Oh Imam, can you see your Lord? How can you worship him?" Imam says, "How can I worship a Lord which you cannot see? My Lord cannot be seen with the eye. He can be felt with the heart." Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. These sort of questions become a springboard to you and I understanding our religion. The minute I can answer such questions, I springboard within my religion. One aspect which needs to be discussed specifically is, after proving the existence of God, that you and I have been given 2 different strengths within our bodies. One is called tabi'ah and one is called fitrah. Tabi'ah is our dominance as a human being, which is naturally extremely physical. The will to eat, the will to drink, the power to sleep, the want of food, the want of drink. This is called tabi'ah. This is the human nature. Tabi'ah does not know good. Tabi'ah does not know evil. It simply is an animalistic trait which keeps us surviving. It's the autopilot which keeps you and I surviving. Fitrah is what raises questions such as the one we just discussed. Why am I discussing these questions? Because our fitrah is what asks these questions. Tabi'ah knows no good or evil. Tabi'ah knows that when I am hungry, I need to open the refrigerator and eat. No matter how many kids are starving all over the world, it doesn't matter to me, because the minute that I am hungry, the minute I need to eat, I will eat. The second power, which is fitrah, controls it with the notion of good and evil. Here's what I mean. Imagine there is a horse and there is a rider. The wild, untamed horse is the idea of tabi'ah, which is letting loose to gain everything that it wants. Fitrah is the rider controlling the tabi'ah, guiding it to where it needs to go. Hence, you and I sometimes, within our minds, we try to approach some sort of evil, and something in the back of the mind says to you, "Hold on, stop. There's something not right about this. I don't feel okay with this act. Maybe you need to rethink this. Remember what your mother told you. Remember what your father told you." That remembrance in your mind is fitrah exposing itself. Fitrah exposing itself. Hence you'll find sometimes young children, especially infants, they'll cry if the mother is eating. They'll cry if the mother is sleeping. They'll cry if the mother is napping. They'll cry if the mother is cooking. No matter what a parent is doing, the child will cry. Because certain children, especially infants, are extremely tabi'ah orientated. They're on survival mode. Hence, people who are older, who can depend on themselves, they go into fitrah mode, where they awaken the strength within them to be able to control their tabi'ah. And it's more prevalent within you and I. What's the searching goal of my existence? Is to awaken the tabi'ah which is in me. Because it's asleep. Tabi'ah is always there. The fitrah needs to be awakened within me, that now I am able to control the good and the evil. Another example is tabi'ah is the raging river which takes everything in front of it. Imagine a person who weighs, let's say, 300 or 400 pounds, who is trying to lose some weight. He goes to the fridge, he sees food in front of him, he wants to devour everything. His inside, which is the fitrah, says to him, you are trying to go for something which is good. Hence the control that comes here is from the fitrah towards the tabi'ah. Tabi'ah is the gushing river which takes everything in its way. Fitrah is the dam which controls tabi'ah into electrical energy. It takes it and it redirects it into a different energy. Any positive thought process that you get into your mind is your fitrah trying to awake itself. Hence, whenever you debate with an atheist, interestingly, when the discussion about God comes forward, they always insist that God should be good. God should be good. Why? Why is it that you and I strive so much towards the good? If it was man-made, if these moral rules were man-made, you and I should be able to change them. I should be able to change it. Whatever today is man-made, I should be able to change it. If somebody gave me Muhammadi trust and said, Brother Ali, revamp it, rechange it, we'd be able to take down the walls, destroy them, rebuild something new. Because we made it, it's man-made, it should be able to be changed. Anything today which is man-made can be changed, can be removed and reinstilled. Because the moral structure, which is good and evil, was given to us by Allah, it can never be changed. And anybody who comes forward and tries to change it will never be able to. Because it wasn't made by us. This tendency to go towards good and demote evil, even within atheism, a person who might not believe in a God, was set in stone by Allah Azza wa Jal. Hence, as much as you and I try to change it, we'll never be able to. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now the goal of society today, what's the goal of society? Because people know that we've got these two powers, tabi'ah and fitrah, they're very well known. What's the goal of society today? The goal is that you desensitize the fitrah of the individual. As much as you can, desensitize the fitrah of the individual, that he loses all of this power of spirituality and he's completely gone towards the materialistic aspect. I'll give you a brief example. Recently in New York, a lot of us heard that there was a very big storm, right? Hurricane Sandy. There is a story that emerged on the front paper of a woman who had 2 children within her. She had 2 children with her who she was holding within the flood. And she was in a complex building and she wanted aid, she needed to seek help. So what she did is she went to her neighbor upstairs and knocked the door. She said, please, can I get some shelter within your area? My 2 young children are dying. I'm holding them within my hand. I can't, they're dying. I can't hold them anymore. Can I please seek shelter within your house? The woman looks at her, she says to her, I don't have enough food for you and your children. And she closes the door, she locks it, within the middle of a hurricane. On the front lines of the newspaper, 2 children dead, mother found next to their bodies. Imagine. Now, is this a tabi'ah act or is this a fitrah-orientated act? Because the individual was so scared that at one point they might starve of death, their selfish nature, which was tabi'ah driven, took them to such new heights that they were not able to control their level of need. They were not able to control their level of selflessness. Because selflessness and selfishness are 2 completely opposite concepts. Selfishness is when I take but I can never give. Selflessness is when I give and I give and I give but I never take back. Selflessness and selfishness are two completely different aspects. One, I take from society, I never give back. The other is I give to society, I give so much, but I never take anything in return. I am so motivated by my society, I have controlled my tabi'ah to such an extent that whatever I'm asked to do, I ignore it. Hence today we remember Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. What's the main message I take from this beautiful story? What's my main message? Is the whole concept of controlling your tabi'ah over your fitrah. The minute I get next to the water and I'm ready to drink, my heart is a piece of charcoal. I'm trying to control it. I'm trying to motivate it. I drop the water and I say, my fitrah controls my tabi'ah. Wow. Imagine if the world could live with this message today. You know the children starving in Africa right now would never be there. Never. Even within today's certain countries, the last drought which happened in Somalia or Ethiopia, Somalia I believe, there was a story which came out of a lady who had to walk 200 kilometers to get to water. Daily she had to walk this, just to get water and come back. And one day as she was walking, and imagine it cost $60,000 simply to make a well within the area. That's about 30,000 pounds, approximately, roughly. And the story comes out that she was walking towards this area to get water. Two of her sons, two kids, one on her back and one she's holding in the front, are latching onto her. This is a mother with two kids. Imagine the selfishness of the world. If we controlled this will to spend and not get back, if we could just control this, my God, the world would be a different place. She's walking with these two children, walking down the road. Once she becomes so thirsty, so tired that one of the children falls on the floor. One of her kids falls on the floor. And she is so overwhelmed with thirst. She is so tired. And the child sits on the ground. She's got no control to pick both kids up. If she takes both children, she'll fall. She's got a child sitting on the ground, calling her name. Ma, come back. Please come back. Don't leave. And this mother is forced to walk away from her child in the middle of the hot desert. She's walking away from her child. She's got two kids. She knows if she picks this one up, she'll fall on the ground and both of them will die. Her only aim is that I need to get to the water, that the one on my back survives. This is the message that the world is sending to you and I. Buy everything that you can. Spend as much as you can. Let your materialistic, animalistic aspect buy so much that a $60,000 well cannot be built within a country like Somalia. And today we have things like Boxing Day and Black Friday within the United States, where herds of individuals, and I don't say humans, I say herds of humans, move to our stores. I swear to you, within America, yearly, we have 5 or 10 people who get trampled to death. They get stepped on to death. Why? Because we become materialistic drones. A company sends out its first phone, we buy it. It gives us another trap. Buy the second version, we buy it. Buy the third version, we buy it. Buy the fourth version, we buy it. Buy the fifth version, we buy it. And it's constant circle. Every day there's a new gadget. Every day there's a new phone. Every day there's a new tablet. And you and I just keep falling for the same carrots. We keep falling for the same trap. The minute it comes out, we've got to buy it. Because this tabi'ah can never be controlled. You and I have this tabi'ah, animalistic nature within us, that the minute I see something sexual which is of my attraction, I'm there. The minute I see alcohol of my attraction, I'm there. The minute this party happens, I'm there. Because there's no control of the tabi'ah through the fitrah. The minute I tame it, the minute I control it, the minute I take care of it, the disasters which we see in our society, believe me, will start fading away. All these poor countries that are poor, where people are dying every day. You go to Brazil, kids are losing limbs. You go to Sierra Leone, kids are losing limbs. You go to Iraq, kids are dying. Orphanages. Within many countries, kids are constantly dying. Is it because we don't have enough? No. There are elites out there who are controlling the wealth of the masses. All the wealth of the masses, you and I, are controlled by an elite who hoard the money to themselves. They hoard it, and anybody who listens to this talk sometimes says, you know, this is just a conspiracy theory, but it's clear. The evidence is clear. All the wealth of the masses that you and I have is controlled by 5 or 10 elites who are throwing the wealth here and there in order to start wars, to take people and invoke them into buying more things, to create more materialistic drones. I tell you today, we don't have soldiers. We've got drones walking around. They're not soldiers. There is no thought process within killing an individual. Taking a gun and shooting at an individual has become so easy that we make video games out of it. We make video games out of it. And some people ask me, brother, why is it that there's a problem with playing all these shooting video games? What's wrong with it? What's the problem that, today somebody sends me a picture of somebody sitting on a joystick. And the first thought process I get is this is a video game. Simple Call of Duty video game. Somebody's probably sitting there playing the game. Under it there's a caption which says, this is not a video game. This is a soldier from so-and-so army attacking this land from a joystick, from a computer, thousands of miles away from where the attack is happening. You think this person started out this way? You think the person started out listening and killing this way? You know how sometimes you see people even within the streets who've got headphones that are blasting. And I think to myself, oh Allah, it never started that way. I bet you it never started that way. It started very little, very low. Matter of fact, the first time the person started listening to this music, it was very, very minimal. But mom started getting into drugs. Dad left the house. Brother is beating me. This person is raping my mother. This person is hitting me. This person is abusing me. And as the problems grew, the volume of the music also grew. As I went to high school and my testosterone level shot up in the air, I was so angry with the world that I had to turn the music up. And finally, when my mother died or my father died, I was so angry at the world, my music started blasting. I was dressed in full black, right? My piercings are all over my body, and I was so upset with this world that I had to crank the music higher and higher and higher. That maybe this is a release for me from my worldly pleasures. Maybe I can release myself from all of the pain through this way. And I tell you, these video games that we play will soon come further and further. The circle goes way through. The circle never stops. Remember, anything that starts has to end. And today there are those sitting on unmanned drones with a joystick throwing bombs at individuals. Wherever there's a person to be killed, the drone is there. Wherever there's an individual to be assassinated, the war is there. Whenever there's a person who needs to be removed, the drone is there. How are they doing it? Simple joysticks. And you and I do the same thing today. Simple joysticks to kill individuals. Simple video game to kill somebody. It's all a process of training. And some say, look, this might be a paranoid act. You're paranoid with these video games. If you look at the facts of what's happening today in the world and where all of the military is recruiting its people, you'll come to understand this is not just theory, this is fact. And all of the money that you and I spend on the wars are destroying our economies. Hence, Imam alayhi salam, why did he come forward? Why did Imam Hussein make a movement? Because even the economic system was destroyed. There was a few individuals who were owning thousands of gold dirhams, and the majority of the people were licking food from pots. The majority of the people within the time of the Imam alayhi salam were licking pots. It was such a terrible situation. Hence the Imam had to rise even against the economic system. Even the economic system of the time was destroyed. Imam had to rise. I tell you, when we understand the fitrah and the tabi'ah of our Ahlul Bayt and how they let their tabi'ah dominate, their fitrah dominate their tabi'ah, it makes them extremely powerful. Especially holy Imams. Imam Ali in specific. Imam alayhi salam as the Khalifa of the Muslims. One day he's walking by, he sees an old lady cursing him. This story resonates with me because it's practical, very practical. I take this into heart, I try to apply it every day. Imam alayhi salam, one day he's walking, and he sees an old lady cursing him. He says to her, why are you cursing the Khalifa of the Muslims? For what reason? She says to him, you know what? Because of Ali ibn Abi Talib, my husband and my son has died in his war. And now I've got kids who are orphans and nobody is taking care of them. Look at the power of the Imam. Look at the practicality of a leader. A leader doesn't sit around with his people, takes the corner spot and says, this is me where I sit and nothing else is going to happen. A leader doesn't just sit on the pulpit and talk. I tell you today, I'm sitting here talking. Maybe in 10 years, maybe I walk out and a car hits me and I pass away. I tell myself, oh Allah, any second I can be under the ground. A leader is a practical individual who works within society. And even this pulpit, sitting here and speaking, is not simply an end. It's a means to helping practically. Some people think that sitting on the pulpit is an end. Speaking to societies is an end. It's not an end. It's a means to something greater. That the minute you represent the religion of Islam, the minute you and I take it into our representation, we start to act practically on the message which we're speaking of. If there's no practicality, then there's no message. Hence the Imam alayhi salam comes to this lady and she says to him, I've got no food. I am boiling water for my kids on a stove and waiting for them to fall asleep because there's no food. No food in the house. I'm boiling just water. And I'm fooling them. They think there's food. There really is no food. Imam alayhi salam starts to cry. And he goes, he brings some flour. And he brings some wheat. He brings some water. And he goes inside the house of this lady. She's got no idea who he is. The leader of the Muslims, the one who controlled 28 of today's modern countries, is doing this feat. This is a leader, in my opinion. Practicality is right here. Imam alayhi salam sits in her house and he takes the wheat, he starts to churn and grind it. Imam grinds it. She says, what are you doing? Let me take care of this. He says, no, I'll take care of this. He grinds it, he gives her the wheat and he gives her the water. He tells her, put these two together, and he sits with the children. He puts one of the kids in his lap, he puts the other one in his lap, and he starts to play with them. Some people ask, how do I change the character of my child? Spend time with him. Take a youngster, spend 10 minutes playing basketball with him. Take 10 minutes playing football with him. Take him to the gym with you. Let him do something with you. Let him see you as a role model. My sisters, take a young sister who might not wear hijab. Take her with you to a place. Take her out to a shopping mall. Spend time with her. Wallah, you revolutionize their characters. I swear to you. The best solution is spend time with our kids. Spend time with them. Today I've got fathers who tell me, I don't even say I love you to my child. I don't even say I love you to my young boy. Mother says, I've never said I love you to my young man. And the young man says, of course I don't love her. She's never said I love you to me as well. How can I love her? She's never said I love you to me. A father says, I've never hugged my child in my life. Wow. Imam takes his young kids, he puts them on his lap, and he starts to play with them. She finishes, and when he takes the wheat, he takes the flour, he takes the dough, and he puts it and he starts making bread. As he makes bread, the oven sparks heat on his face. Look at Imam Ali's character. Imam sees it. He says, ذُقْ يَا ابْنَ أَبِي طَالِب. Taste, O son of Abu Talib. Never forget the orphans and the aramil and the aitam. Never forget them. Never forget them in your day. Never forget them in your time. Imam says, don't forget them ever again. The neighbor of that woman walks in. She says to him, Yabna Rasulullah, what are you doing? She says to him, oh cousin of the Prophet, what are you doing? She says to her, who is this man? She says, this is the Khalifa of the Muslims. What's he doing in your house? Imam says, if I won't take care of them, who's going to take care of them? Practicality. A man comes to Imam al-Hasan. He says, can I have a piece of bread? He says, if you're hungry, come have a meal in my house. He says, no. I saw a man sitting by the masjid who looks as if he is 80 years old and he looks so hungry. I need to give him food. He looks so hungry. I saw him eating a hard piece of bread. Imam al-Hasan says to him, that's my father Ali ibn Abi Talib. I swear to you, this is his habit. Practicality of a leader. What's my Islam all about? Practicality. The minute I walk out of here and I forget the message of the Imam and I don't put it in my life, my Islam means nothing because there's no practicality to it. Theoretical Islam is beautiful. Speaking on the pulpits about Islam is great. But what's the practical approach to the religion? Here is a practical approach. Hence Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, what resonates with me in my heart is the practicality of the message. I think about somebody like Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. See, sometimes, a lot of the times, even we're sitting around here, the majlis finishes, we pass by a piece of garbage, we pass by a problem, we pass by something, we just leave it, brush it to the side. Somebody will take care of it. We listen to the news of people dying, somebody will take care of it. We listen to somebody starving. We know our neighbors, someone is starving. Somebody will take care of it. If we all had that mentality, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas would never go get water. Because he walked by the tents and he heard the children screaming, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. He didn't say, you know what? My brother Al-Hussein will probably take care of it tomorrow, inshallah. Ali al-Akbar will probably go tomorrow and get water. Habib ibn Mudahir will get water. Imam said, I personally will take care of this problem. This is a leader. The minute you see an issue, you take care of it immediately. Imam Al-Abbas says, I will take care of it. It's my movement. Hence when he walks by the tents and he hears the children screaming, Al-Atash, Al-Atash, it pains him. It pains him, I tell you. And he goes towards the Imam, to Abu Abdullah. He says to him, Yabna Rasulullah, allow me to get water. Let me please take some water from you. Let me go and get water for the kids. Imam Hussein says to him, if you go, my army gets deteriorated. You are my flag bearer. You are my flag bearer. And Imam finally allows him to go. Abu al-Fadl Abbas rides his horse, he walks towards the river, and Imam Hussein stares at him. He says to him, Irkab binafsi yabna Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, it's as if you're riding my soul, O son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. And Imam al-Abbas ever since he was a child, a narration comes and says that once Imam al-Hussein was sitting on the pulpit, he was speaking, and he starts to cough. He points to Qambar, he says, Qambar, get me a cup of water. Qambar goes to get water, Al-Abbas immediately jumps up and runs with Qambar. Qambar takes one route, Al-Abbas takes another route. And they race home to get the water. Al-Abbas gets to his mother, al-Baneen, he says to her mother, give me water, quickly, quickly. He says, why? He says, Al-Hussein is thirsty, I want to bring him water before Qambar does. Quickly bring me the water. And Al-Abbas, being a young child, 7, 9 years old, he takes the bowl of water. As he's walking towards the Imam he is so excited, he spills the water. And the minute he reaches Al-Imam there's no water left in the bowl. Qambar brings the Imam water. Al-Hussein takes him and he hugs him. He says to him, brother, one day you will bring the water back to the tents. Brother, one day you will be the one bringing the water. I tell you, Al-Abbas the level of understanding that he has. When I see him, I see a strong character, upright. Never bowing down, always upright, always had his head high. When you approach him, you need something, he's there, he's available for you. Hence we say he's Bab al-Hawa'ij, because I see him in my mind as an upright individual. And the minute he goes towards Nahr al-Furat, as narrations have it, there are 40,000 waiting for him. Ibrahim, the son of Malik al-Ashtar, narrates, he says, once we were sitting with Al-Abbas in the battle of Siffin, and then Abbas is asleep, he wakes up and he's crying. He says to him, what happened? He says, I saw in a dream my hands are severed. I have no hands. He says, Al-Abbas started to cry. He says, immediately Al-Hussein calmed him down. On that day, that's exactly what happened. Al-Abbas alayhi salam goes towards Nahr al-Furat. He fights through the enemies, he gets near the water. He opens his hands and he gets near the water. He brings the water closer to his mouth. He remembers Aba Abdullah and the thirst of the Imam and the thirst of Zukaina and Zainab. He starts saying, Ya nafs, min ba'd al-Husayn huni, wa ba'dahu la kunti aw takuni, hadha Husaynun waridul manuni. وَتَجْرَبِينَ بَارِدَ الْمَعِينِ. He fills the water container and he goes back towards the tent. One man hides behind the tree and he cuts the right hand of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He starts screaming, Wallah, in qata'tum yamini, inni ahami abadan an dini. وعن إمام صادق اليمين شبل النبي المصطفى الأمين. He keeps going further. Al-Abbas alayhi salam, somebody strikes his left arm, it falls on the ground. Al-Abbas alayhi salam takes the water container and he hugs it close to his chest. The enemies hated the fact that Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, his head was always high. To bring his head down, a man comes from the back and he strikes him with a pole on his head. The arrows come at him as if they are rain. One arrow strikes the Qurba, another arrow strikes him in the eye. Al-Abbas alayhi salam here falls on the ground. I swear to you, when a knight falls on the ground, he takes the ground with his arms. Where are the arms of the Abbas that he may take the ground? نادى أخي يا حسين أدركني. جاء الحسين عليه السلام. Al-Hussein ran towards the body of his brother, yelling, الآن انكسر ظهري، الآن قلت حيلتي، أخي يا عباس. He comes next to the body of his brother. Al-Abbas thinks that an enemy is coming towards him. He says, يا هذا أقسم لك بالله ألا تقتلني قبل أن يأتي ابن والدي أودعه ويودعني. I want to farewell my brother Aba Abdullah. Al-Hussein alayhi salam. He comes by the body of Al-Abbas. He puts his head in his lap. He sits by his body. He wants to remove him. He says to him, brother, don't move me. Sukaina is waiting for me in the tents. يا حسين خليني بمكاني إلك يقول ليش يا زهرة زم يقول له وعدت سكنه يقول له يا حسين خويا السعم بالله طلع يقول له خويا حسين شيل السعم من يمي خواتك يا ابو السداد يردمي يقول له خويا السعم بالله طلع يقول له خويا ما قدر طلع متعاصب وصفحه وصعب شلعه يا بخويا يرد نصب مناحه عليه هياك وين as Al-Hussein alayhi salam is sitting by the body of Al-Abbas. The soul of Al-Abbas rises towards Allah. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا. أيوا سيدا. Al-Hussein walks towards the tents with a broken back. The first person to greet him was Sukaina. Am ya Hussein. يا حسين أراك قد رجعت وحيدا. Where is Al-Abbas عليه السلام? Where is my dear uncle? Al-Hussein goes towards the tent of Al-Abbas and he drops the pole, indicating that Sukaina and Zainab. Al-Abbas is not there. Zainab alayhi salam. Zainab تقول ولا عين يلوجن يم ابو فاضل ولا عين يلوجن يم ابو فاضل ولا عين قلها خويا لا ايد البقت عندي ولا عين يا خويا ما قثر عتابك علي يا خويا مكثر عتابي هيك علي زينب عليه السلام. As she is entering مجلس يزيد، عندما دخلت مجلس يزيد صاحت خويا من طبت مجلس الأرجاس، يهود ونصارى وكفر ورجاس من شافون محبط الراس. خويا من شافون محبط الراس صاحوا يا زينب وين عباس، والله صاحوا يا زينب وين عباس. بيت الختام زينب عليه السلام goes by the body of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. She says to him, brother, were you not the one who brought me from Medina? Come now and take me back towards Medina. تقول خويا ما انت اللي جبتني، خويا ما انت اللي جبتني وبيدك يا خويا ركبتني، يا بس ما رحت علي وعفتني. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. يا الله، اللهم نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. Let's raise our hands, brothers and sisters. Al-Abbas is known as Bab al-Hawa'ij. We've got so many people who are asking us for dua. I swear to you, people here, people overseas, there are millions dying today. Please, let's raise our hands towards Allah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. 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 One more time together. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا. يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم شافي جميع المرضى يا الله. اللهم اقض جميع حوائجنا يا الله. لا تسلط علينا من لا يرحمنا يا الله. اللهم اغفرنا وارحمنا ولا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا. Oh Allah, make us leaders within our communities, Ya Allah. Quick announcement for the brothers and sisters, inshallah. I know my dear brother Dr. Sayyid Ammar Naqshwani has a new book. Please support this great cause. It's a great book which has the lives of our imams. Any money which is made, part of it goes to the Shabab who are creating this great majlis. So please help out as much as possible. Help out as much as you can. ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات نقرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها صلوات.